Thank you for joining us today for a very special presentation by Spoke Intelligence, publisher of VBProfiles.com. Efficient, comprehensive, actionable market intelligence. By delivering a completely unique platform profiling business ecosystems, VBProfiles.com has accomplished something never before seen in the world of market intelligence. Full market landscapes developed by leading industry experts to derive actionable insights for data-driven decision-making. Whether you're a startup entrepreneur, head of product or division at a Fortune 1000 tech company, an analyst at a consulting firm, or simply a competitive intelligence enthusiast, with VBProfiles.com, you will enhance your skills as a high-performance leader in your industry. To bring this all home for you today, you'll be introduced to real business professionals who are confronted by some very real challenges, where the opportunity to fail or succeed depends largely on the market intelligence tools they choose. For example, most traditional market research tools are very limited in their scope. Competitive market research usually surveys less than 10 companies. Financial research covers more companies, but the depth of this research is mostly financial. This is far from being enough, as any strategist would tell you. Between new entrants, potential threats, incumbents, suppliers, customers, and partners, tracking just a few companies only covers a small percentage of what needs to be tracked. The other approach to tracking information is to use Google Alerts or to do research on Google. Again, there are natural limitations to this approach, as researching hundreds of companies and topics can result in hundreds of hours of research. Managers have grown to work within the confines of the current technologies, so they are able to connect the dots to create a better picture of the market. However, that approach is not bulletproof and often will result in poor communication, decision-making, and significant wasted time. Now let's get to those real-world professionals and their challenges. The first is a startup CEO looking to raise funds. Second, a Fortune 1000 tech company product manager. And third, an analyst exploring a new market for his firm. First up, meet Karen, a big data startup CEO. Her company has developed a unified dashboard pulling data from hundreds of online sources to help small investors buy and sell their stock. It's a significantly capital-intensive model, therefore she is seeking funding from institutional investors. While getting ready to pursue her fundraising campaign, she talks with investors and identifies through these channels the 50 venture capital firms with whom she feels comfortable meeting with. She sets up her meetings and calls, talks to many VC partners, and, at the end, feels that most of the investors she met with didn't really understand her industry. She wasted a great deal of time educating the partners on the industry rather than the opportunity itself. In a nutshell, she really wasn't talking to the right VC firms, and she was no closer to raising her capital requirement. Understandably frustrated, she remains undaunted, refocuses, and continues her search. She uncovers VBProfiles.com, where she identified quickly the market she was playing in and discovered the Investor tab within the funding section. Now, in less than 45 minutes, Karen is able to identify 50 investors who indeed have made more than 5 investments in big data companies like hers. She excludes the ones that have made investments in competitive companies and selects 20 VC firms she needs to engage with. Next, she reaches out to her company advisors and inquires of their relationship with the VC firms that she's identified. Pursuant to that meeting, she selects 15 qualifying firms with direct connections to her advisors. After just her third investor meeting, she left feeling she had gained true understanding of what is required to achieve her funding objectives, which causes her to immediately recognize that her pitch is not quite right. She has to rethink an aspect of her business that was being perceived as simply not fundable. Armed with her brand new investor pitch deck, she sets up new meetings from her list of VCs and successfully obtained funding from one of the leading VCs in the industry. Now she is interviewing experienced candidates referred by her syndicate and is already being pursued by more investors for her next round of financing. By making the smart investment in VBProfiles.com, Karen deepened her industry knowledge, closed her financing round, grew her network, and set herself apart from 95% of her competitors. Next up, there's Ellie. Ellie is the head of product at a Fortune 500 tech company. She is under enormous amounts of stress because her division numbers have been significantly down over the last 2 quarters due to their failure to release truly new and exciting products. Desperate for a solution, Ellie instructs her group to identify products complementary to theirs that her company can either acquire or license. Her group relies on the competitive intelligence experts to survey the market. They identify 10 companies in the industry that meet the criteria through an innovation database that tracks startup companies only. She engages with those 10 startup companies only to discover that their products are not mature enough or the conditions for acquisition are not viable. Ellie knows she has to shake things up. She subscribes to VBProfiles.com and receives a full competitive analysis which tracks not only startup companies but also more established companies. In addition to the existing 10 companies she's reviewed, she surfaced another 20 companies that were either more mature or in previously unidentified adjacent markets. After narrowing in on her targets, Ellie quickly sets a meeting with her corporate and business development teams, and after due diligence, she closes a tech IP acquisition deal with a more mature company and develops her own product based upon the new IP, all while decreasing the risks typically associated with this type of acquisition, which is a huge win for Ellie and her team. And finally, there's Andy, a newly hired 30-something who went to a good college and was recruited to a top management consulting firm because of his research and analytic skills. Andy is currently researching the Internet of Things, or IoT space, specifically for an end-of-the-quarter presentation to the partners at his firm. This is a hugely important project for Andy's company and for his career. If the project succeeds, Andy's research will enable the 3 different companies to invest millions of dollars and employ thousands of workers to connect the resource industry of an entire region of South America to the internet. Andy sets out and begins his research with the assets provided by his manager. As he conducts searches on Google, Andy discovers that this requires he vet dozens of resources, track hundreds of companies and topics, and put in hundreds of hours of research performing thousands of searches. Andy has created a database for himself and is collecting a lot of very good information. However, he is running out of time. His quarterly meeting is in 1 month, and his report is only halfway complete. He is confronted with the traditional dilemma: narrow the scope of the study, exposing himself to possible flaws in the results of his analysis, or keep going while facing the risk of missing the deadline. Luckily, Andy has heard about VBProfiles.com through an article he saw on VentureBeat and the NASDAQ private market newsletter highlighting unicorn companies. Determined to provide the most accurate, up-to-date, relevant information to his partners, Andy subscribes to the VBProfiles.com market research reports. He begins receiving the Daily Hub, which provides the most up-to-date and accurate news and market trends, the monthly ebook, which is a summary of significant market-related analysis, and the quarterly report, a comprehensive, in-depth quarterly market research report. Now that Andy has stopped wasting time on online searches, he can more carefully analyze industry reports and compare them with the real-time data and alerts that VB Profiles provides. Andy now has time to further expand his understanding of the space by exploring it further. Using VBProfiles.com, he identifies and reaches out to executives in the field, who share with him more granular and personal feedback. When it is time for him to present at his quarterly meeting with his partners, Andy has not only compiled great research, he's also identified several strategies to secure strategic partners for his clients in the region. Andy's report and the actionable insight he provided are very well received by the client. Therefore, not only do the partners at his firm promote him within his group, he is also hand-selected by the client to head up their project and coordinate their massive IoT initiative in South America. If you're still watching, I know you want to separate yourself from average business professionals who waste hours on traditional market research and get truly average traditional results. Subscribe to VBProfiles.com and stand out among your industry's high-performance leaders now.